Hello everyone, welcome to Legal Darshan. In today's video, we are going to discuss the topic consent. Consent is one of the most simple topic, yet one of the most important topics of the legal studies. So when we hear the word consent, what exactly do we mean by it? Why is consent important? Who can give a consent? What kind of consents are valid in the eye of law? And more such information we are going to deal in this video. So consent is basically a permission or acceptance to do something. So let's say if A is drunk and in the drunken state he agrees to give 1 lakh to B. Will it be called a consent? Like A agreed and it was his consent that he will pay the amount to B. Can B go to court and ask court to enforce the wordings of A? Well, the answer is no, because he was not in a ready state to think, he was drunken, he was intoxicated, and hence was not capable of making a decision and hence giving a consent. So, consent is basically a permission or acceptance to do something. The Section 13 of Indian Contract Act defines consent as when two parties agree to enter into a contract, they should agree upon the same thing in the same manner. There should be a meeting of minds between the two parties. That is, the parties must be thinking alike, the parties must be free to think about the consent. The parties shall enter into the agreement on their own thinking, on their own acceptance, and on their own permission. Anything that is obtained, any permission or acceptance that is obtained by some force or fraud, will not amount to a valid consent. The Indian law recognizes only the free consent. The consent can be expressed or implied. It could be written, it could be verbal, it could be oral, or it could be implied by the actions of the parties. When the consent is written, verbal, or expressed, it becomes an expressed consent. But when it is made through gestures, when it is made through activities, it becomes an implied consent. Let's say A and B enters into an agreement. A tells B that he will sell his car to him for 50,000. Now B brings 50,000 to him is an implied consent. There is no agreement, there is no signature, there is no written deed or anything, but just the gesture of B bringing the money to him says that he has consented to purchase his car and hence he is giving an implied consent. Whereas when the agreement would have been made on pen and paper, it would have been called an expressed consent. Now, who can consent? Who can be a consentee in the eye of law? A consent must not be given by a minor because law does not recognizes the minor's consent. The consent made by person must be in sound mind. That is, the person is not intoxicated, he is capable of making the decisions, he knows what he or she is consenting to. And the final and the most important condition is the consent must be free from force or fraud. So, when we talk about the word free consent, what exactly is free consent? So, without digging deeper into the legal aspects of free consent, when a layman listens to the word free consent, what exactly comes into the mind? Like, if I am a layman and I am said the word free consent, I will be thinking of these things. The consent must not be forced, that it is obtained by the free will. It is not obtained by any physical force, by any assault, or by any emotional blackmail. It is my own wish, it is my own desire, it is my own will to perform it. I am not drunk or intoxicated. Someone has not intoxicated me to obtain my consent. That will be a free consent. And I have consented to it in a proper state of mind where I can think of it, where I can think of the consequences, where I can think whether one yes or no from my side is going to make a change, is going to lead to some consequences. Will the consequences be fruitful or not? On all these thinking, I will be able to give the consent. And the last point, it must not be obtained by fraud. Like if I am going to buy a chair and its handle is broken, I am not shown that part, and the product delivers at my place, the consent has been obtained by fraud, which is a cheating to me. So I will not conclude it to be a good consent or a free consent. All these aspects are legally discussed under the Indian Contract Act. The Indian Contract Act tells that the consent is said to be free when it is not caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, and mistake as to law or mistake as to facts. Coercion is committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the Indian Penal Code, or any unlawful detention, or the threaten to detain or any property, any person, with the intention of causing harm to the person and hence making him enter into an agreement. While the term undue influence means the influence created by one of the parties who is in a position to dominate the will of the other and uses that position to obtain an unfair advantage over the other. Suppose X is the employer of Y and he influences Y to perform an act and puts a condition that if Y denies, he would be thrown out of the job. So the consent given by Y will not be a free consent. Obtaining the consent by fraud means that the person obtaining the consent has induced the consentee to enter into the contract by doing fraudulent activities such as lying, concealing the facts, making fake promises, any other acts that can fit to deceive, and any other act which are fraudulent in the eyes of law. Now let us think of a situation. Let's say I tell you a fact about my laptop that it has 512 MB of RAM, which I am told by some other person, and you agree to buy it. Now when you see the laptop, you didn't find the RAM to be 512 MB, rather less than that. Now, this is a condition where I am told something else which I reciprocated to you and which is not true. Now, this is not fraud. My intentions were not dishonest. I passed you the information I received. Hence, it will be termed as misrepresentation. So, your consent to purchase my laptop is brought under misrepresentation, and hence, it will also not be a valid consent. Now, here is another condition. Let's say X is traveling from America to India and he agrees to bring 50 gold coins, which is not permissible in India. So, he agrees to a point which is not permissible in India, and hence he is making a mistake of law. Thus, the consent he gave is not a free consent and hence not a valid consent in the eye of law. So these were the few aspects about the topic consent. If you want to know more about the topic and dig in deeper into it, you can always mail us to at legaldarshan@gmail.com. Also, please feel free to put any queries, suggestions, information, etc. to us via the mail or the comment box below. Thank you for watching this video. Have a good day.